I'm Marlon Cheung. Jeff asked me to come here to share some stories. In fact, I met Jeff when he was working in China.com. Have you guys heard of China.com? No? It's the first Asia company being listed in Netscape. It was a big thing. At one time, it worth $5 billion US. Where is it now? My boss got all the money, he ran away because he's been delisted in Nasdaq, but still listed in Hong Kong Jam. They used to be HongKong.com. I think now they changed their name back to China.com. Right? He's a very smart man because at that time he raised, I think, $500 million US cash and 1.2 billion when he listed HongKong.com in Hong Kong. He never spent it. I think he's still using the pile of cash right now because I don't think he buy that much other companies. But anyway, I start to talk about this. I have to point it to Apple because I used to work for Apple. And I joined Apple in 1986. At the time, internet was only in the academic world. It was not really in the commercial world. So the closest thing from in the Apple perspective as related to internet was a thing called Apple Link. So what is Apple Link? Apple Link is a system that we use to connect all the Apple employees and distributors and all developers and all that to retrieve all the Apple information, because at that time even World Wide Web was not popular or may not even exist. And I remember my login ID. That's not my Apple employee ID, is Apple developer ID. It's D4447. You cannot not mention BBS, Bulletin Board Service, or Bulletin Board System in those days, because before internet, bulletin board was a really big thing. I remember I used to join a group called the Macintosh User Group. We use bulletin board service to communicate. And it's very interesting because you use a modem, you dial up, you use your phone, and then connect to this system, and then painfully slow, right? But we enjoy it. So don't try to read it because it's too small. And this is the guy. Oh, where's the This is the guy coined the term bulletin board service. But it was really popular then. Actually, that was just before internet being launched. And like everybody else in those days, if you join Apple, a few years, you have to set up your own company. And that's the trend. If you look at Silicon Valley, most of the company in those days are launched by the ex-Apple employees. So in Hong Kong, in Perth, I was the fourth person joined Hong Kong Apple. And of course, I have to follow the culture, right? So I become an entrepreneur. I was looking at this, it's quite interesting, because if you're looking at different time, you will have different meaning about entrepreneur. And 2013, and this guy said an entrepreneur is someone who commercializes or her innovation. I think the guy's talking about US. In China, you don't do that. China, you do 1975. Entrepreneurs take initiative, accept rates of failure, and have internal locus control. I don't know what it means. Just copy this from Wikipedia. But I think the 1971 one is more apt in this part of the world. An entrepreneur is a imitator. You take someone else's idea, you localize it. If you look at China, that's what happened. And it's hugely successful. Because when I'm looking at the whole China market, especially in internet and all that, can you tell me which one is an invention or innovation? None. But they're big, they're huge, like Alibaba, like Baidu, man, they're big companies. So it works. So China.com, after I left Apple, I became entrepreneur. I set up my software house, I do applications and all that. And then in 1997, I think it was, I got a call from an ex-colleague of mine. He used to work for Microsoft Hong Kong and Asia. I think this Microsoft thing, because the previous speaker was talking about Microsoft. You just cannot get away with Microsoft. So my ex-colleague, he left Apple, he went to join Microsoft, he became the MD of Microsoft in Asia, and after he cashed in with all his money from the stock options in Microsoft, he decided to join China.com, and he has a project called Pointcast. And he said, hey, can you help me to run it? Have you ever heard of Pointcast? No? Yes? Okay, what is Pointcast? I'll show you later. But China.com is a very interesting company. One of the shareholders, Sunhua, and I actually have been to Sunhua's office for meetings. And I don't know how they become one of the product, but it's very interesting. And then you have all these different, at those days, the internet brands wanting to have partnership or joint venture with China.com, because there were not too many internet companies then. I'm talking about 1997. That's the time I joined them. But China.com actually started in 1995, I guess. AOL. A lot of these companies you probably don't hear of anymore. Network Solutions still there is the operating register.com. 247, I'm not sure they're still there or not. Netscape is being killed by Microsoft. DoubleClick is part of Google. These are the few interesting names. The Yahoo is still there, almost not make it, but they're still there. And I was invited to join and become the operation director of Pointcast. So what is Pointcast? Actually, in those days, at that time, Pointcast was a very advanced company. They pioneered this concept called push technology. What it is that when you running your PC or your Mac, no Mac, only PC, they actually tap into your screensaver and push you news. But in those days, that's text, it's not graphic. Okay, so every morning when you come back to your office, you can go into your screensaver and tap on Pointcast, and you can start reading news. And I remember my partner used to be like SCMP, Sunbo, and Reuters, CNN, and all that. So it's quite interesting because, on your desktop with all this news, why Pointcast failed? Because it's taking up too much bandwidth. In those days, it's not like now, you have tons and tons of bandwidth and it's not costing that much. I know those days actually, one of the reasons I remember I have to do deals with the ISPs. You know what's the ISP, right? I have to redirect my server to their servers and further push the information down from their servers to the, all different companies' servers. The end result of that is you are choking up everybody else's server. So eventually the system was banned by most of the cops in Hong Kong and the United States. That's why they failed. And it's a good concept, but the timing wasn't right. Hey, it's a very innovative. So innovation does not mean always successful. A lot of time it's not successful because you're too much ahead of it. Okay? So it was interesting, and then after that, this thing doesn't really work. My boss said, why don't you do something else? So he said, okay, the thing about China.com is that we own 3 .coms. China.com, Hong Kong.com, and Taiwan.com. I don't know how the guy got it, but he got it. And one of the reasons China.com can list because it's China.com. But anyway, and he decided to launch an email service called HongKong.com. So I was responsible of this project. Of course, the best thing to do is to buy a mail system rather than develop yourself. So I went to China, I talked to this guy called Ding Lui. At that time he was selling mail systems. He was, used to be a China telecom engineer. Ding Lui and Wan and all that. It's about 5, 7 guys. They're very successful selling mailing systems. So I bought a copy from them. By the way, do you know who Ding Lui is? You know, right? Huh? He's the boss of NetEase, Mong Yi, one of the richest guy in China now. And those days I call him Ding Lui, but now I call him Ding Dai Go. So it was very interesting because I remember when I was meeting him, he had a cigarette on his hand, keeps popping up, black teeth and all that. It was very interesting. And then, so he sent me a copy of the system. I remember it was about $300,000 RMB. In those days, it's probably quite a lot of money. So HongKong.com actually is the second free email system being launched in Hong Kong. I wouldn't say it's hugely successful, but it is successful. Yeah, because a lot of people are using it. I remember I used to have the Marlon at HongKong.com address because I control it. All my friends will have their first name. Actually, it's still running, that system. I checked it the other day. And then my boss decided we need to do a portal because we have this venture with Netscape. Netscape at that time operated the largest portal, or actually they coined the name portal. Netscape is before Yahoo. Okay. And we have this venture with these guys. We are supposed to translate Netscape portal into Chinese, operated in this part of the world. But being American, they will give you all these restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do that. So at the end, my boss getting fed up. He said, let's launch our own. To launch it is so easy. You just copy all the Netscape stuff and rename it China.com and use that domain name. All right? China.com is still running today, in fact. Right? This is I just screen dumped it a few days ago. So it is still running today. And we are the first company to launch a portal in Asia. Okay? I remember in 1997, our first story was supplied by Xinhua News Agents. It's about Jiang Zimi. Wow. I don't know how the guy got it, but we are the first one of any media to get it at that time. I was so excited. And then my boss said, we have a lot of people want to do JV with us. Why don't you talk to this guy, 20, it's called 247 Network. They're based in New York. And since we have our own portal, and why don't we do a ad network and link up with other websites and selling ads. Those days is only banner ads. I said, okay, so I talked to them. I tell you, these 247 guys are very smart. In the JV, they asked for an equity in China.com. So we set up 247 Asia. We have a lot of properties. When China.com listed, these guys sold their 7% stake. It was about 400 million US. So you don't have to sell a lot of ads if you have the right concept. So those guys the Americans are very smart in this kind of thing. And by the way, a company called Focus Media, Hong Kong, not the one in China. There's a Focus Media in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. It's outside China. The guy it's being listed. If you go into all this list and order, probably see the screen there. And the owner or the CEO of that company is called PJ. PJ is run 247 network after me. I was the guy negotiate and sign a contract, but he was the guy in the operation. Now he's the guy running his own shop. It's called iMedia House, I think, and they operate a network called Focus Media. Not the China one, it's outside China. So it's very, very interesting. And then after that, I was asked by a friend to join an advertising company because in those days, digital media are hot. Every advertising group want to get a piece of it. So my friend's company was bought by IPG, the Interpublic Group, and he became the MD of APL, Lintus in Hong Kong and China. So he asked me to join him to manage the digital operation. And APL Digital is the digital arm of APL. And because things about these advertising companies that we in the group, they always merge with their internal networks. And eventually, this Lintus become the 6th biggest advertising group in the world. It's a lot of politics. And even with digital companies, they have a lot of different digital companies within the group. And it gives us so much trouble. At the end, we decided to do a management buyout of APL Digital in 2002. But that was a bad decision because the internet bubble burst in 2003. Okay? So you're talking about timing? It cannot be any worse than that. At those days, we have big company clients like Dragonair and Audi and all that. It was quite interesting. So I traveled quite a lot to China because Audi's headquarters is in Beijing and Shanghai, and helped them on the digital marketing and all that, and Dragonair. So that was very interesting too. And then 2003, the bubble burst. Okay, and not a lot of us survived during those days. So after that, I've decided to have a crack at China. So I was working as a consultant for China Post in Guangzhou. I don't really actually go to Guangzhou all the time. I'm based myself most of the time in Hong Kong. And they have an operation called mail order. Actually, it was a very interesting project because there's a 2 projects I work with the mail order side. I find it very interesting. Do you guys know anything about Noni Juice? Noni Juice is juice, I think also an American thing, is a MLM thing, multi-level marketing thing. And that juice is supposed to be to cure all your cancer and all that stuff, right? It's quite big in Hong Kong, see? And then they start doing this MLM stuff in China, right? But as you know, MLM is not legal in China. So those guys are very smart. They get the Chinese come down here to join the membership and all that. And then they get us to actually use China Post Network to send those products in. And when they develop those networks, people in China, we actually develop a system for them. They can go into any China Post office in China and pay through the payment system, because in those days they had no Alipay, okay? So you can just go to any post office. In the China Post, they have a bank attached to it. It's called the China Post Bank. Apparently it's the 6th bank in China. They have 80,000 branches. If you're talking about shops, they are the largest in China. I think ICBCs only have about 40,000 branches, but they have 80,000 branches, cover the whole China. So anyone can go there and pay into the network. And in Hong Kong, we are able to deliver you a box, a 12 bottle of Noni juice. It was very successful. The turnover at that time was about 60 million RMB per year. We become too successful, 90's went to China, set up their own factory and all that. But at the end, they were not given this direct sales permit, so they're kind of in trouble. And then the second company we work with is an Australian company selling gold. The way they do it is very interesting. They advertise on TV in the really remote area of China, like Qinghai, right? And again, if you want to buy that piece of jewelry, gold, primary gold, you can just take down the product number, go to any post office and fill in the form, deposit your money in. We are using the network to send in the rings or necklace, whatever, to whoever buy in this remote area. At first I thought it's not going to work. Who's going to buy this gold through mail order or TV? Well, yeah, it's TV order. But it's interesting because it actually worked. Apparently, like if you're in a remote area, the closest town to where you are probably about 5 hours by car, and there probably is only 1 or 2 gold shops, and the variety is not that many. And people actually go there. But these guys, you don't really go like in Hong Kong, you go to shopping like every other day, right? Apparently they only buy gold once or twice in their whole life. So they want a good choice. And they see TV is a good source, and they trust this China Post system, okay? Because there's a guarantee if you put in your money, if you didn't get your goods within a certain time, they actually refund you. That's why they trust it. So it's very reliable, and become very big. That company actually listed in Australia by just selling, once or twice to the same customer. I mean, if you consider China as a huge market, even in the rural area. So it's quite interesting. So that's the 2 projects I did with mail order with China Post. And I was helping the direct mailing operation in Guangzhou. In those days, everyone sent DM. Not like now. Now you use spamming, and now you have you spam by WhatsApp and all that anyway. But those days it's paper. And this company is one of the China Post operation in 2005. I think they're already turning over about 20 million. It's one of the largest in nature outside Japan. So it was very interesting, but then I'm helping them to migrate the thing into e-commerce because they know that e-commerce is going to be the thing. So they're integrating it. Like they're sending things out. Then in those days when you send a DM out, you fax it back to confirm your order. But then eventually you send it out, you use your internet to type in whatever. It's like what happened now. And then it evolved into using SMS, right? But I have not in touch with them for the last couple of years, so I don't know what's happening in the last couple of years. They probably killed by e-commerce if they do not evolve fast enough, right? So that was a very good experience. And then the problem about entrepreneurs, once you become one, you always want to be one. So after I get familiar with the Chinese market and Chinese system, I started thinking, setting up my own. At that time, I was involved in 3 very interesting projects. One is called Chin Tong. Chin Tong meaning connecting villages in Guangdong province. There are 40,000 villages in Guangdong province, 60 million population. And the idea, I don't know who think of this. the Guangdong government just want to connect all these villages through internet. They are already connect through telephone network and also cables, because they actually cable TV are reach these 60 million population. But some guys want to collect data through, using this network in terms of agricultural products and all that. It's the very initial idea of e-commerce, because they're talking about if one part of China they're really famous in one product, they can sell it to another part of China through internet, like Ji, like Ji say only in Guangdong, but you can actually sell it order in Beijing or something else. The idea was good, but the implementation was very difficult, because they tried to get every village to have one or two person responsible importing data. Of course, it didn't work. We trained about 120 guys, but the whole thing just collapsed because they never want to input data. Okay? But having said all that, it actually succeeds now with the handphone. Okay, because you can just take a photo and send it using WeChat or whatever. And then the another thing is called HKSAR. HKSAR is like corporate, what you call it, the cooperative shops. It's like 7-Eleven. In China, it's full of them. It's part of the communist product. Every commune have their own shops. That's what it is. It's huge. So again, they're trying to computerize it like 7-Eleven, and so that you can have a good distribution of, goods. It's huge if you can get it work. Of course, you can't get it work, because at the end, imagine you go to a village and trying to tell those guys to use computer. Most of them have never seen a computer before. When they use a phone, they just not the phone that you use now, those really old phones. They just manage to punch a number and call. So at the end, of course, it doesn't work. It's a fantastic idea, but it doesn't work. Otherwise, it will become the largest 7-Eleven in the world. Okay? But then, the last project is a very interesting project. We are working with Guangdong Cable TV. The reason we work with them is because they want to put TV on the handphones. And we are one of the company to start doing video streaming in 2006, I think. But imagine 2006, stream onto your Nokia handphone or your Ericsson handphone. I think the screen is like this. Technically it works. And the quality is very good. But try to see your TV there. So we managed to get it working, but the problem, nobody wants to use it. Okay? And when iPhone came out, that was in 2008, then we know we have a market. As I was coming to this conference, I was on the MTR, I kind of look at how people using their handphone or their smartphones. I think half of them are watching videos. But in those days, nobody's watching it, okay, even though it works. And also data cost was another problem as well. So at the end, in 2007, 2008, we have developed an integrated multimedia mobile platform, integrating video and TV and mobile devices in China. And the platform is still working today. Basically, it's an integration of everything you need onto a platform that can run on your smartphone, your tablet, and because we can see that's the future when we write. And that time, remember, I had a project with the distributor of English Premier League in Hong Kong. So we actually developed what we call channel on the handphone. In that channel, you can go and look at all the scores, all the all the news, and then it's a bit like what you see on news. You can play highlights and all that. And it was a fantastic product. We love it. But then there's a problem. Nobody wants to pay. Nobody wants to subscribe in China. In China, if you ask for a subscription, you're dead. People expect everything free. Okay? So, good product and all that is being used, but nobody wants to pay for it. So eventually, no money, the project is full up. So if you look at internet, mobile internet, I kind of drop down all these elements. And what do they mean? You can kind of divide into 4 groups. Smartphone, tablet, PC, smart TV, one group. And then your text, picture, photo, audio, music, video, another group. And then you have the middle, your web, your apps, your streaming, your IPTV, and so on and so forth in the middle group. And you have to have e-payment and logistics to make it complete. And then on the blue side, it's more the things that, if you like, it's like the business that you can get involved. I mean, in the other 3 groups, you have to be a huge company to do that. I mean, you can do your smartphone, but look at HTC, they're struggling now, right? Nokia. Okay, 3 years ago, Nokia was, I think years ago, they're still the largest handphone seller in China, but now, they become Microsoft. And tablet was not even exist in 19. I think the first one was released in 2009, so it's been redefined. And then you have smart TV now, only the last 2-3 years. So it's kind of being redefined. If you in that sector, if you can call it, then you're winning, like Samsung. Because I remember, do you guys remember Samsung? They used to have this phone called AnyCall. Where is it now? They really went, that division actually was nearly shut down because I have a friend who used to be the AnyCall distributor and his company went bust. Okay, but now Samsung is one of the 2 largest, in fact they're the largest smartphone supplier in the world, overtake Apple in terms of volume. So this game is very tricky and risky. If you hit it right, you're there. If you don't hit it right, you can disappear very rapidly, even Nokia. Who can think of Nokia handphone, rapidly disappear? You can never think of those kind of things. And I think the next type of companies don't be in trouble with PC companies. And then the formats, and then your medium types. So if you look at it, it's really, I would call your phone is more like your end user terminals. With the smartphone, you can, you basically have a computer with you all the time. It's a computer itself, right? And then the presentation format, text, audio, video, pictures and all that. But now I think the trend is going more and more into video and TV. And then, of course, you need the platforms, your Android, your iOS and all that, and your infrastructures, like, logistic infrastructures, payment infrastructure, banking infrastructure. And on the right-hand side, that's where small entrepreneur can make money. That's your ideas, your innovation, your product, your service, your technology. And the latest with apps, right? There's a company called Snapchat, right? You wish you do it, right? It's simple. It's a very simple thing. Snap and chat. I think you guys can do it. That's where the opportunity is. I'm quite excited about it, even though I don't do programming anymore. Just a very simple idea. If it catch on fire, you can make it. It has the opportunity now is a lot easier as compared to my time, because I think this app thing is revolutionized, and entrepreneurs. I mean, you know how Angry Bird become Angry Bird, right? So you just need this one app, but make sure you don't, present your idea to 10 cents. If you look at WeChat is a combination of WhatsApp, Talkbox, Line, and what's the other one? Yeah, the guy just put 200 engineers in it and copy the whole damn thing, and then they call it WeChat. And they have all the money to market it. And they have 900 million QQ users. Even QQ is a copy of ICQ. You guys heard of ICQ? And the guy just copied. Actually, he called ICQ old ICQ, right? And then QQ sued them and changed the name to QQ. That became really successful in China. So the thing is, innovation sometimes can mean imitation as well, but you have to localize it. And I think integration is coming now because we have all the elements. You have your terminal, you have your presentation format, you have your platform infrastructure. Now it's up to you. If you have a good idea, you might just make it work. I can see a new model kind of coming. I call it the integrated mobile communities. Like e-shops. E-shops are your Taobao and all that stuff, and your Tmall. And then, you know what happened in September 11, right? They turned over 380 billion or 350 billion in one day. So you can see the power of it. And Jack Ma is a very smart guy. He wants everything because not only Taobao and Tmall, he owns this thing called Alipay. That's the killer. And now he's working on an infrastructure logistic project. He won. In fact, in November 11, some people can get their product within 8 hours after they order, which is pretty good for China standard. They order within 8 hours, they already got their product in hand. So it's a very, very interesting development in China. And then also, with mobile phone, this thing called O2O is emerging. You know what O2O is, right? It's online to offline and offline to online. I think they're already doing it. Just like when you're walking down the road with your phone and suddenly you got this location-based ad to your phone and say, okay, McDonald's give you a voucher, McDonald's next block, if you come now, give this voucher, 50% discount for a Big Mac, that kind of stuff. So it's driving the traffic to the shop. And in China it's actually a big thing. Okay, Jack Ma is also talking about that. And then your music and entertainment community, I mean, you guys got your smartphone. Anyone has not got a song on your smartphone? See, you got your songs. And anyone don't have a game on your smartphone? You have a game, so it's with you. And then The next thing that really is going to hit big is TV and movie community. Your handphone or your mobile device, your iPad, whatever. You can just use that as your mobile TV. I mean, I was on the MTR just now. Everyone is watching something. I don't know what they're watching. It can be a video. It can be Now TV news. It can be anything like that. So it's integrated, and this is fantastic for advertisers. Meaning that wherever you go, you can't get away. If you're watching TV or video, you're going to get the ad. So it's called advertising everywhere. It's happening. And then I cook other bits into this culture and special interest community. Actually, you guys are doing it. How many of you are using WeChat? No? WhatsApp? You're not using it? You better get one. How many of you use groups in WeChat? See? That's special interest. Like you connect to all your friends so that you can send one message to, we are going to this restaurant to have dinner tonight. And probably when you go there, then you just take a photo of the dish and then upload it, right? How boring, but you're doing it. That's a special interest group. It's happening. So all of this is actually happening now is community. And if you look at your spending, your actual spending, especially in China, I'm looking at China very intensively, is that the shop and the e-shop, you actually pay, you're willing to pay to get the service. But in China, the other three communities, people do not want to pay. Okay? I mean, they don't pay for music, otherwise they won't get Zoom. I mean, they don't, I mean, if you use PPS, right? Any one of you pay for it? No, of course you don't pay for it. And WhatsApp. I actually pay for my WhatsApp, it cost me $8. Do you pay for your WhatsApp? You don't even pay for yours? Hey, I'm the only one who pay for it. So actually people, especially in the mentality of China, people don't want to pay for the other three groups except shopping. Okay? So just imagine this thing on top, this purple thing is your mobile device. You're actually using your mobile device to tap into different communities to do one thing, to spend money. Even though sometimes you don't think you spend money, but you are because you are subscribing to the mobile phone companies, you're using data. Then you buy stuff, right? And then you do transactions. You probably do your banking, your transfer and all that. So it's all integrated, whether you like it or not. It's all integrated and it's with you all the time. Okay, so you tap into a different community, even though you don't know it. And this, I call it the integrated mobile communities. And the two yellow arrow means that's where you're actually willing to put money. But the other three communities are supported by ads. So you're watching it and somebody's paying for it. And if you look at this internet thing, you know, now we are still in the era of social network. I mean, you know, you just have Twitter listed, and Facebook was listed. Now it's a 100 billion company, and Twitter was what, 20, 30 billion. And then you look at in China, Weibo is like the Twitter, and then you have WeChat. WeChat is getting very interesting because they have about, I think, overseas 100 million users, but in China about 300-400 million users. They can easily reach 900 billion. It will become the largest community in the world, surpass Facebook. And then Renren, YouTube, Youku, and all that stuff. We still stay in the like social network. But I think we're kind of shifting now into this thing called IMC, Integrated Mobile Community Era. how to make this thing really on fire, I don't know. Maybe WeChat is the one, I don't know. But as entrepreneurs, if you can think of something like apps or whatever that can fulfill this IMC thing, then you are the one to make the next big thing. I mean, you know, when Mark was doing this Facebook in Harvard, he didn't really think Facebook would become the Facebook of today. You know, I think the only one company now WeChat become WeChat is Tencent, because they have 900 million QQ users. And for how many of you are actually developers, doing apps and this kind of thing? See, this is your chance. You can do the next big thing, but don't ask me what, because if I know, I would have done it. Okay, so I just this conclude my talk, and just want to just walk through with you all the things I did during my whatever years from Apple to now, and the opportunity I actually think wide open, even for small fries like us, is now. Just think of your next Angry Bird, your next WeChat, your next Snapchat. I was amazed with that. And and they've been offered 3-4 billion, still not want to sell it. I would just grab the money and run. Yeah. So integration, integrated mobile community. That's, I think, where the thing is moving to, and this is going to be new business models. Thank you. That concludes my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marlon. So it's very insightful, exploring and very delightful for business model. So I think you have some questions to ask, right?
If you want to just chit chat, open the floor.
Yeah.
Not just me. We can just talk about it. It's fun.
Any thoughts? Any comments on that? Yeah.
Actually, I was working in between Hong Kong and Shanghai, and then I was working in a high-tech company before. And then I just wonder, when I was in Shanghai, I see that people are crazy. The opportunity was huge, market is there, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. If they by chance successful, it's like a huge success. But of course, there's so many failures. And when I was back home in Hong Kong, I did not see the atmosphere.
Jeff, where's Jeff? The Incu-Lab supposed to help this, to push up the entrepreneurial spirit here. I mean,
the purpose of the whole StartMeUp week is to do things like that.
Yeah.
I think there's one major problem in Hong Kong is actually funding, VC funding. If you are in Silicon Valley, I think most of you will make it. Come on, look at Snapchat. I look at the thing, I thought, wow, fantastic, 3 billion. I mean, you have to be in a place that VC are sensitive. You have to be in a place that VC do not operate like equity investors. In Hong Kong, I talked to a lot of VCs, right? My conclusion is that there's no VC in Hong Kong. They all equity investors, because the first question they will ask you is, are you making money? I said, if I'm making money, I don't need to come to you. They just go to a bank, right? Even in Singapore, the government actually invests into early startups. In Hong Kong, sorry to say that our government talk about it, but our government doesn't really do anything about it, right? I mean, Hong Kong government talk a lot about it, but you have to put the money where your mouth is. Hong Kong is lagging behind in terms of compared to Shanghai, even compared to Shenzhen, even compared to Guangzhou.
True.
Because my company is in the Guangzhou Science Park. They give you money, you know, if you register, if you pass this, they give you 100,000 and that, they give you another 20,000, you know, that kind of thing in Hong Kong. They don't. So Hong Kong would lag behind if the government is not going to support it, if the community is not going to support it. So I admire Jeffrey, because Jeffrey is trying to push the government to do something. Okay? And you're right about Shanghai and Beijing.
Yeah.
You look at all those big guys, they're all from Shanghai, Beijing, and Guangzhou. NetEase is from Guangzhou. Baidu is from Beijing or Shanghai, I think. And Alibaba is from Hangzhou, near Shanghai. The government support them.
I want to share my view on the entrepreneur. But I got a background of building websites in 1999. I built a website around 2000. Okay, an e-commerce website built myself.
Oh, that's very good.
and targeted on the mainland China in simplified Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
I quit using I quit targeting on the simplified traditional Chinese. So, but it was too early, and I think you remember that the 8848, the e-commerce website, the biggest e-commerce website at that time, and collapsed afterwards. I don't agree that Hong Kong lacks money or the lack of VC in Hong Kong, but what I mean is Hong Kong people lack the vision. You know that, okay, when I developed the website at that time, the web users were only, let's see, about 20 million web users. And nowadays you got about 600 million web users. Not mention the mobile users. Okay, so what I mean is the Hong Kong people lack the visions and go international or even to the mainland China. And then they keep talking about, okay, we should, in terms of adopting the technology, Hong Kong is really good in adopting the technologies. But in terms of develop something which is big and dream big, they lack the vision. They can't see what we can do. Leverage the manpower or the technologies or the people with having resources in mainland China. At that time, I remember 2000. People at Hong Kong has a very good competitive advantage over mainland China. But nowadays, you see how many companies went to Netscape, went to the U.S. market for IPO. How many companies are there in Hong Kong? It went public and keep doing this. Even Tom.com or a lot of companies like even China.com, they're not running. Some of them are not running. Some of them is actually dying today. Okay, so I think the government or some of the business people in Hong Kong can do something, or at least go to the mainland China or broaden the vision to do something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I went to China in 2004-05, and but China is not an easy market, but it's a huge market. And if you're doing something in Hong Kong, you do not do China. You're not doing yourself justice, because the Americans want to go in China because it's a huge market. Okay. But if you want to go to China, you have to have the right partnership, or you have to know people. How doing business in China is completely different. I can tell you that. After I went there in 2005, I'm still trying to figure out how to do it. And it's very different. I tell you, it's easier for the Taiwanese to go to China to do business because Kuomintang and communists are the same. But we are not. Mandarin is one thing, it's the thinking. We're corrupted by the British. We don't think the way the Chinese think now, but the Taiwan guys think similar to the Chinese guys. Having said all that, there are no internet company from Taiwan successful in China. Same. It's a very interesting market. I think it's a lot to do with culture. It's a lot to do with culture. And Hong Kong guys are very successful, like in factories in China, in industrial stuff. They're very good. Investment, they're very good. Tom.com, the reason they're successful because it's this guy called Li Ka-shing backing it, right? Tom.com now today actually become a publishing company and a media company. They bought a lot of traditional media. Interestingly is that China.com did not go into that. China.com, I found it very interesting. After it got listed, he begins to buy software companies when the software companies want to branch out. So that's why China.com is not successful. If at that time they should have gone into digital media, they have the money and they were the first batch of company in Netscape. They were really famous. Okay. I think if you want to be successful, China is a market you cannot ignore, and it's huge. And the actual China internet market is very mature. The payment system is good. Okay, Jack Ma is taking all the money, but there's nothing you can do about it. The infrastructure is very good. Even the three operators like China Mobile, Unicom, China Telecom, the infrastructure is there. Okay? And now they have, I think, 600 million mobile users on the internet. And I can see the handphone would drop further now. If you go to Shenzhen, you can get a handphone for 600 and buy, a smartphone. Of course, it's a Samsung imitation. But Xiaomi is coming with cheap handphones as well. So it's less than $100. I mean, give it another 2-3 years, nobody is using non-smartphones. That's how big the market is. With this kind of penetration, they're good for especially 2 areas or 3 areas. It's very good for e-commerce. It's very good for advertising. It's very good for gaming. So if you have a good idea, I don't know how you're going to push it, don't ask me. The market is huge. You don't need to go to the US.
Maybe the very last question.
Just want to get your opinion on, a lot of people are taking advantage of services like elance.com, where you can get a lot of freelancers to make your apps, web design or whatever. That's very popular in the US. But whereas in Hong Kong, people are accustomed to have to work for others, but you can also work at home. I guess they call it micro-entrepreneurs in the States. Just want to see your thoughts on why there's no such thing as freelance of a Chinese version.
Actually, it's one, but not in Hong Kong, it's in China. Actually, it's such companies in China. China is more. In Hong Kong, you're restricted by the environment. Actually, I have given a proposal to Hong Kong government on that. I told them we have a problem because, okay, Steve Jobs, the guy is dead. You know how Steve Jobs started his company, right? In the garage, in his father's garage. How many of your father have garages? You have a parking lot, but you can't really start working on the parking lot, right? And Mark Zuckerberg, he started his company in the dorm, in the university dorm, right? In Hong Kong, try to start your company in the university dorm. Hong Kong they don't have enough dorms for students. So you're restricted by the environment. And also, the rents are expensive. Even you go to Science Park, if you try to get a place like Science Park, there was a study by SCMP. They analyzed all the companies in Science Park. That was last year. There's only 6 companies really doing research and innovations. The rest are subsidiaries of big companies. So you big guys, you small guys, you don't have anywhere to go. And then, right, you try to go to the factories of like Guntong and all that. It was cheap, right? And then Zhang Yangquan announced that we're going to do this, and then they sold up 3 times the rent. So I sometimes, you look at this government, it's just like, I'm going to give up. It's just that you do not have that environment to do it. But in fact, in China, China is a lot better. I can see the big entrepreneurs from China. Sometimes I tell myself I might as well either go to Silicon Valley or go to China, but I'm too old to do it anymore. You guys are not. I'm telling you, what Jeff is doing here is a very good thing. If he is doing this like 20 years ago, I think I become one of the Facebook now. You just do not have the environment to do it. But now, I hope Jeff is going to help you guys with that. I mean, if you do an app, wow, you can be the next Angry Bird. Yeah.
Really thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.